There comes a point in healing where you realize you're not just grieving the relationship, you're grieving the version of you that existed inside of it. The woman who believed in forever, the woman who thought she knew what her life was going to look like, the woman who felt safe, the woman who kept showing up even when she was losing herself. And sometimes healing isn't about getting her back. Sometimes it's about realizing she was never meant to stay. Because the version of you on the other side of all of this is stronger, wiser, more honest, more at peace. But getting there means letting go of the person you used to be. And that part is hard. Hey there, and welcome to Momma Drama and Trauma. I'm your host, Jenny Kimmel. And this week, we're talking about something that I don't think gets talked about enough when it comes to healing. Because healing isn't just about becoming stronger. It's not just about growth. It's not just about moving forward. Sometimes healing means letting go of the version of you that you used to be. And that's not always easy, because even if that version of you was struggling, even if she was lost, there were still parts of her that felt familiar and safe. So this episode is about becoming someone new while also grieving who you used to be, missing who you used to be. If I'm being honest, when I think about the version of me before everything happened, I don't picture someone who had it all together. I picture a woman who was lost. She was a woman trying to figure out who she was, what happened to her, what her point in being here even was anymore. Her kids were getting older, not needing her the same way, and she felt like she lost her place somewhere along the way. She was going through the motions every day, doing everything that needed to be done for everyone else, but not for herself. And I don't know why this memory always comes back to me, but I spent a lot of time standing in my laundry room. Probably because I was always in there doing laundry, just going through the routine. But I remember standing there so many times, pulling clothes out of the washer or the dryer, and just thinking, there has to be more to my life than this. I felt lost. I felt like I had lost my way somewhere, and I didn't know how to find my way back. And in my body, I just felt sad because I knew there was more in me. I felt like I was meant for more, but I didn't know what that looked like, and I didn't know how to get there. And at the same time, I didn't have any energy. None. I felt lazy. I felt stuck. Like I couldn't even pull myself together enough to figure out how to move forward. And I judged myself for that constantly. I didn't feel good about myself. I compared myself to who I used to be because there was a time in my life when I was completely different. When my kids were little, I used to run 5 miles a day. Every single day, and somewhere along the way, that version of me disappeared, and I couldn't figure out how to get back to her. And I think I even started to believe that maybe something was just wrong with me, that maybe this was just who I was now. And if I'm being really honest, I think I projected that onto my husband too. I felt so low about myself that I assumed he probably saw me the same way. And then everything changed. And I didn't just lose my marriage, I lost my sense of safety. Because 8 months before everything happened, I lost my dad. And then the one person I still look to for that same sense of protection, the one person I trusted to be that safe place, was the one who hurt me the most. And just like that, the 2 men in my life that I looked to for protection were both gone. And that safety I felt before, it disappeared. And if I had to say the one thing I miss about that version of me, it's that, the feeling of safety. Because even though I was lost, even though I didn't know who I was, there was still a part of me that felt protected. And when that was gone, everything shifted. But here's the truth. There wasn't one moment where I realized that version of me was gone. It didn't happen all at once. It was a slow process. As I started getting stronger, as I started believing in myself, as I started finding my way again, she slowly faded. And one day, I just realized she's not here anymore. And if I'm being honest, I don't miss most of her. I don't miss the version of me that was just going through the motions. I don't miss the version of me that wasn't present. I don't miss the version of me that didn't know how to live life for herself, because now I feel different. I feel free. I don't feel like I'm constantly on alert anymore. I don't feel like I'm always waiting for something to go wrong. My body doesn't feel like it has to stay tensed up all the time. I can breathe. I can be present. I can actually enjoy my life, and I didn't have that before. So no, I don't miss her, not really. I understand her. I have compassion for her, but I don't want to go back to her because she was a woman who didn't know how to live life for herself. And I'm finally learning how to do that now. The version of you that was just surviving. If I think back to that time, the version of me right after everything happened, the best way I can describe it is this. I was just surviving. That's it. There was no thriving. There was no clarity. There was no, I've got this. It was just, I have to make it through this day. That was the thought every single morning. I would wake up, and the first thing I felt was heaviness. Just this weight, like I had to get up and do it all over again. Another day, another full day of carrying everything I was feeling. And it felt the same every day. Like I was stuck in this loop of just trying to get through it. I wasn't living for the week or the month. I was living hour by hour, sometimes minute by minute, just make it through this. Make it through this hour. Make it through this moment. Make it through this day. So I could go upstairs, get in bed, and just not think about it for a little while, because sleep was the only place where I didn't have to feel it, even though sometimes I still dreamed about it. But still, it was the only break I got. And in between all of that, my mind wouldn't stop. I'm an overthinker anyway, so that didn't help. I replayed everything over and over and over again. The texts I saw, the conversations we had, that conversation out on the porch, the things he said, things that I don't even think he meant to be hurtful, but they were. They stayed with me, like when he said it was a soulmate situation. That one stayed. And I would just sit there replaying it all, trying to understand it, trying to figure out, why would he do this? How did I not see it? Was I so lost in myself that I couldn't even see what was happening in my own life? What is wrong with me? And at the same time, there was still this part of me that wanted my life back. As crazy as that sounds now, I wanted it to go back to normal. I would go to bed at night thinking, maybe I'll wake up tomorrow and this will all just be a bad dream. Like none of this actually happened. And if I'm being really honest, there was a long time that I wanted him to come back. I wanted him to realize what he had done, to realize the mistake, to realize what we had built together. I spent 24 years of my life with him. That doesn't just go away overnight. So, yeah, there was a part of me that held on to that for a long time. Even through mediation, I remember sitting there thinking, maybe this is the moment. Maybe something will click. Maybe he'll look at me and realize this isn't what he wants. He wants his family. He wants me. And every time that didn't happen, it felt like something inside of me kept breaking down a little more each time. Like, how much more of this can I take? And the only way I knew how to get through it was to feel it. And music was a big part of that. I would be driving, radio blasting, feeling everything. Songs like We Never Loved at All, Go Your Own Way, Bad Blood, Used to Love You, We Are Never Getting Back Together. All of it. Some of it made me cry. Some of it gave me strength. But all of it made me feel something. And I needed that because I felt like I cried enough back then to last a lifetime. And even though I had support, I still felt alone. I had my mom, my sister-in-laws. I had Dr. Denise. I had Dr. Christy, and they helped. They understood pieces of it, but nobody knew exactly what I was going through, except one person, her husband, because he was living it too. And there was something about that made me feel less alone. Because he got it. He didn't have to try to understand it. He was in it. And then there was that moment that I'll never forget. That December night, right before Christmas, the time of year that's supposed to feel happy, and everything just felt broken. I had gotten into it with my son, and I said something I wish I could take back. And that night, I remember telling my mom and my sister, I don't know if I'm going to make it through this. I don't know if I'm going to be okay. And I meant that because it felt like it was destroying me from the inside out. And I remember later that night looking over and seeing one of my sons sleeping in the chair in my room because he was worried about me. And that was one of those moments that hit me. Like, this can't continue. I can't keep living this way. Not for me and not for them. And when I look back at that version of me now, my heart breaks for her. She was so lost, so confused. She didn't know how to fix it. She didn't know that she couldn't fix it. And if I could go back and be with her in those moments, I would just hug her and I would tell her, you're going to be okay. I know you don't see it. I know you don't believe it. I know you feel like your life is over, but it's not. It's just beginning. And you're on your way to finally becoming you, because she was a woman who needed to see her own worth. The healing that happens in the small moments. There was a moment today that probably wouldn't look like anything special to anyone else, but for me, it meant everything. I was sitting in my room working on creating my podcast, just trying to stay focused and get things done. I was in that mindset where I'm like, okay, let me just finish this. Let me stay on track. And then 2 of my boys came in together, and then a little bit later, my third came in. And instead of doing what I would have done a few years ago, which would have been, give me a minute or let me finish this and then I'll come find you, I didn't do that. I just stopped. I stopped what I was doing, turned toward them, and let myself be with them. And we just started talking, hanging out, laughing, them showing and telling me things. And I'll be honest, there was even a moment where they started talking about something that I did not want to hear at all. Like, nope, not for mom ears. And I literally covered my ears and started doing my best Charlie Brown parent impression because I did not want to hear it. But I stayed. I didn't send them away. I didn't rush them out of my space. I didn't make them feel like they were interrupting something more important. And we sat there like that for a while, probably close to an hour, all three of them in my room, and it just felt peaceful. Not chaotic, not overwhelming, just peaceful. It felt good to just sit there and talk to them, even in the middle of whatever they were saying. It just felt good to be with them. And what really hit me later, not even in the moment, but after, was how different that is from who I used to be. Because 3 years ago, if I'm being honest, I wouldn't have done that. If I was in the middle of something, I would have said, I need to finish this, or I'll talk to you in a little bit. And it wasn't because I didn't love them. I love them more than they will ever know. But I was in a completely different place back then. I don't even know how to fully describe it. I was just always on edge. Like I had to get everything done. Like I couldn't stop. Like if I didn't finish what I was doing, something would fall apart. I don't know if it was survival mode or what it was, but I just remember always feeling like I had to keep going. And now, my nervous system is different. I don't feel like everything is urgent. I don't feel like I have to rush through life just to get to the next thing. And because of that, I can actually be present. I can stop. I can sit with my kids and just be with them. And that hour today, that mattered more than anything I was working on, because what I realized is this: it's one of my favorite things now when they all come into my room like that, all three of them, just wanting to be with me, wanting to talk, wanting to show me things, because it doesn't happen as often as it used to. They're getting older, they're doing their own thing more, so when they choose to come in, I don't want to miss that. I don't want to rush past it. I don't want to be the version of me that says, not right now, because one day they won't come in like that anymore. And I think that's the difference for me. It's not that I have more time. It's that I see the time differently. I see the moment differently. And today I chose it. I chose them, and it felt peaceful. It felt good. And as I sit here thinking about it now, I can honestly say I'm not that version of me anymore. And I don't ever want to be her again, because becoming someone new doesn't just change how you show up in moments like that. It changes everything, including the relationships you keep. Outgrowing people who don't fit who you're becoming. You know, one thing I didn't expect when I started healing was realizing that not everyone was going to come with me. And that's been a hard one, because for a long time, I held on to relationships just because of history, because of time, because of who people used to be in my life. I think for a long time, I believed that if people had been in your life for years, if there was history there, then you just kept holding on. You kept trying. You kept showing up. You kept making excuses for why things felt one-sided, because surely history meant something. Surely time meant something. Surely if you loved people and showed up for them, that would be returned. And healing taught me that isn't always true. Sometimes people are in your life for a season. Sometimes relationships exist because of circumstance, because of marriage, because of shared routines, because life naturally placed you in each other's orbit. And when life changes, those relationships change too. That doesn't always mean anyone is bad. It doesn't always mean there has to be anger. Sometimes it just means things are different. And I think one of the hardest parts of healing is realizing that some relationships were never as deep as you thought they were. Sometimes you look back and realize you were the one carrying most of it. You were the one checking in. You were the one reaching out. You were the one making the effort. And when life gets hard, you notice that. You notice who shows up. You notice who checks in. You notice who makes sure you're okay. And sometimes that realization hurts because it makes you question things. It makes you think, was I holding on to something that wasn't really there the way I thought it was? And I think as a mom, the part that hits the hardest is when it affects your kids. Because as moms, we notice everything. We notice who shows up for our kids. We notice who checks in. We notice who makes them feel important. And when you love your kids with everything in you, that matters. Because you never want your kids to feel like they matter less. You never want them to feel overlooked. And that changes you. It changes what you tolerate. It changes what you protect. And I've also had moments where I felt judged, especially when it came to how I was handling my life after everything changed. You know, people can have opinions about your healing, your choices, your parenting, and your next steps without ever really understanding what you are carrying. And I'll be honest, that made me second guess myself for a while. It made me feel like, am I doing enough? Am I making the right choices? Am I being the kind of mom I want to be through all of this? But the truth is, people can have opinions about your life without actually knowing your life. They can have opinions about your kids without really knowing your kids. And I've learned that peace comes when you stop trying to explain yourself to people who were never really trying to understand you in the first place. Because at the end of the day, nobody else is raising my kids. I am. And I have to trust that I know what is best for them, not what looks best to someone else, not what someone else thinks I should do, what feels right for my boys and for our life. And I trust myself a whole lot more now than I used to. People can have opinions about your kids without really knowing your kids. They can have opinions about your life without understanding what you are carrying. But parenting isn't about making everyone else happy. It's about doing what's right for your kids, even when other people don't understand it, even when they have opinions. And as a mom, I have learned I am not willing to force my boys into someone else's idea of what life should look like. That only creates distance. That creates resentment. My job is not to make my boys fit someone else's expectations. My job is to know them, to support them, to guide them, and to help them become the best version of themselves, not the version someone else expects them to be. Because parenting is not about checking boxes. It's about connection. It's about trust. It's about knowing your kids, and I know mine. And I think over time, all of this just started to build. The one-sided effort, the feeling of being judged, the lack of real connection. And I got to a point where I realized this doesn't feel good anymore. This doesn't feel like a healthy relationship for me to keep holding on to. I remember getting to a place where I asked myself, why am I still trying if they don't care? Why am I still reaching if it's never being met? Why am I still proving myself to people who aren't showing up for me the same way? And that was a huge turning point for me because I realized I don't have to keep proving my worth to people who were never really showing up for me. And I don't have to keep putting my energy into relationships that only survive because I keep carrying them. I think the biggest change for me has been this. I don't have to keep trying. I don't have to keep reaching out. I don't have to keep putting in energy that's not being met. And I don't have to carry relationships just because they've existed for a long time. I can be grateful for what was and still choose to step back. I can love people and still realize they no longer belong in the version of my life I'm building now. Because peace matters more than keeping other people comfortable, and that's where I am now. There are some relationships I'll still keep, but there are others I've decided I'm done putting energy into. Not out of anger, not out of spite, but out of peace. Because I'm realizing I'm finding my way back to who I truly am. And the truth is, I'm a simple person. I don't need a lot. I don't need complicated relationships. I don't need pressure. I don't need to feel like I have to explain myself or defend my choices. I just want peace. I want real relationships. I want to feel good in my life. I want slow days. I want quiet. I want mornings that feel calm. I want time with my boys when they choose to come sit with me. I want to sit on my porch and read a book. I want my future porch swing. Honestly, I dream about that porch swing at this point. I had a dream the other night where I was somewhere and there it was. The exact setup. The porch, the swing, the peace, and I remember thinking in the dream, this is it. This is what I want. Not more, less. Less noise, less chaos, less pressure, less people I have to convince to care. I saw something recently that said, I feel like I should want more, but I don't. I want less. Less plans, less distractions, less noise filling every moment. I want slow days and a quiet kind of full. And that hit me hard because that's exactly it. That's what I want my life to feel like now. Calm, easy, peaceful, not chaos, not survival mode, not constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. Just peace. And if something doesn't align with that anymore, it's okay to let it go. Even if it's hard, even if it's people you once loved deeply. Because healing doesn't just change how you feel. It changes what you're willing to carry. And I'm just not willing to carry that anymore. She didn't know that I'd make it. If I'm being honest, when I look back at that version of me, the one on those walks, the one crying in the laundry room, the one laying in bed wondering how life got here, the one just trying to survive, the strongest thing I feel for her is compassion. Because deep down, I think she always knew she was going to make it. She just had no idea how she was going to get there. And that's a big difference. I think part of the reason I feel so much compassion for her is because she had thought about this before. What if something happened? What if this life I built didn't work out? Because the truth is, I had built my life around my family, around my husband, around my kids, around his business, around everything and everyone except me. And if that life fell apart, what did I really have to walk away with? Who was I outside of all of that? That version of me had buried herself underneath everyone else's needs. She had buried herself under motherhood, marriage, routine, survival, responsibility, and when everything broke, she had to dig herself back out, not back to who she used to be, because honestly, she had outgrown that version too. She had to find her way to someone completely new, a stronger version, a wiser version, a more honest version. She had to find her way back to Jenny. And yes, I do think deep down she believed that version existed. She knew the strong, independent version of herself was still there somewhere. She just didn't know how to get to her. She didn't know where to start. And I don't think she believed peace like this was possible because my nervous system had lived in chaos for so long. I don't even think I remembered what peace felt like. I think I believed healing was possible, but I didn't know how to do it. I knew there had to be more. I knew that standing in the laundry room all those times, I knew there had to be more to life than just surviving. I wanted joy. I wanted happiness. I wanted peace with my kids. I wanted to feel alive again. So no, I never believed pain was supposed to be my forever. I knew there was more. I just didn't know how to reach it. And if I'm being completely honest, yes, for a long time, I still wanted my husband back, probably for close to a year after everything happened, because it wasn't just about him. It was about what felt familiar and safe. It was about 24 years of my life. It was about my family. It was about wanting my kids to still have one home, one family, one normal. It was about the life I thought I was supposed to have. And I always used to say, if my husband ever cheated on me, I'd be done. But life has a way of humbling you because when it happened, I wanted him back. Not because it was healthy, but because it was familiar, because it felt safe, because the idea of life without him felt terrifying, financially, emotionally, as a mother, everything. Even while I was filing for divorce, even while I was sitting across from him in mediation, talking about splitting our assets, splitting holidays, splitting time with our kids, there was still a part of me hoping. Maybe this will be the moment. Maybe he'll realize what he's losing. Maybe he'll come back, and I'm not ashamed of that. That was my truth. That was where I was. And now I can also say this. Even if he had come back then, it would have never worked because I would have never trusted him again, ever. And I can admit that now too. I think what changed was when I started taking my power back, when I got my real estate license, when I started building something for myself, when I started realizing I can do this. I can survive this. I can stand on my own. As I started finding my independence again, I started realizing maybe I don't want my old life back. Because when I looked honestly at that life, I wasn't really happy. And I also started seeing clearly who he was becoming. He wasn't the same person, and I didn't want that version of him. I didn't want the version of him that could walk away like that. That could hurt me, hurt our kids, hurt our families, and keep moving. Once I started healing, I realized I deserve more. I deserve more than that. I deserve more than someone who could do that to me and to our kids. And healing, real healing, was not pretty. It was deep, gut-wrenching crying. The kind where you can't breathe, the kind where you ask, why? Why did you do this to me? How could you do this to me? I cried alone. I cried with my mom. I cried with my sister-in-laws over lunch. I cried in Dr. Denise's office. I cried on Dr. Christie's table while she adjusted me. I cried everywhere. And I'm not even someone who usually cries in front of people. I'm private with that. But I couldn't hold it in then. It just came out. Healing was therapy. It was anger. It was bitterness. It was sitting in the truth of sometimes thinking, I hate you. I hope life hurts you the way you hurt me. I hope one day you feel exactly what I felt. That's real. That's honest. And I had to sit with that too, because I realized I didn't want to become that woman. I didn't want to be bitter forever. I didn't want to be the angry woman still talking about the past 20 years from now. I didn't want to be the person my kids avoided because all I did was live in old pain. I wanted joy. I wanted peace. I wanted to be someone my kids wanted to be around. And that required me to step back and ask myself, who do I want to be? Who do I want my kids to see me as? Because I wasn't innocent in the ending of my marriage either. I had things I needed to look at. I had things I needed to grow through. Healing required honesty. Healing required accountability. Healing required me to look in the mirror and decide, who are you becoming? And if that old version of me could see me now, she would be so relieved. She would say, oh my gosh, we made it. We made it to the other side of this. This is where I wanted to be. She would be relieved that the pain didn't last forever. She would be relieved that peace was possible. She would be relieved that we could let go of so much and finally feel free. And if you're listening right now and you're still in that version, the walking, the crying, the barely making it through the day version, I want you to hear me. You are going to survive this. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be some of the hardest moments of your life. It will make you question yourself. It will make you question why this happened to you. But listen to these words. You did not deserve it. And what they did to you has nothing to do with your worth. It has everything to do with them, so don't live there. Don't live in what they did to you. Live in what you can do for you. Look at yourself in the mirror and ask, is this who I want to be, or do I want to become someone I'm proud of? Because that's where healing starts. Not in them, in you. She was a woman who didn't know what the next step was to move on with her life. And now I am a woman who knows what I deserve. I know my strength, and I know that I want peace, freedom, and a simple life. And that changes everything. If you're listening to this right now and you feel like you're somewhere between the old version of you and the person you're becoming, I want you to know this. That space in the middle is uncomfortable. It's messy. Sometimes it feels lonely. Sometimes it feels like you don't even recognize yourself anymore. But that doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're changing. And change like this, the kind that comes after heartbreak, betrayal, disappointment, and rebuilding your life, isn't easy. But it is powerful, because one day you'll look back at the version of you that's hurting right now and you'll realize she made it. She kept going. She found her way back, and so will you. If this episode spoke to you, if it made you feel a little less alone, I'd love for you to follow the podcast, leave a review, and share it with someone who might need to hear it too. That's how this message reaches the people who need it most. You can also find more reflections, blogs, healing tools, and resources over on my website at mommadramaandtrauma.com. And if you're trying to stop choosing people who keep hurting you and start choosing yourself again, This free journal is for you. It's called Choosing Love That Chooses You, and it was created for anyone trying to find their way back to themselves after heartbreak, disappointment, or life not turning out the way they thought it would. Sometimes we spend so much time trying to hold on to people who aren't choosing us that we forget we still have the power to choose ourselves. That journal is a small place to start. You can also connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Momma Drama and Trauma. Come say hi, send me a message, and let me know what part of this episode hit home for you. As always, you are strong, you are worthy, and your story matters. Until next time, take care of you.